Hey everyone, so today I have the EP3 back in the shop and we're doing a few little mods to get a bit more power out of it. So if you remember the last time we had the car here, we had just done a K24 swap with a bunch of supporting mods, and it made 213 horse and 169 foot-pounds of torque, and we want to find a little bit more. So the plan is we've upgraded the exhaust to an Invidia Q300 exhaust, and we have a set of cams. We're going to do some drag cartel drop-in cams. So we're going to do it in two stages though. So the exhaust is on, I'll put it up in the air in a second and I'll show you the exhaust and what it consists of. And then I'm going to put it on the dyno, see how much it makes with just the exhaust upgrade. Then we're going to install the cams with a 50-degree VTC wheel and retune it and see how much it makes total with the new exhaust upgrade and the drag cartel drop-in cams. So if you haven't seen the video of this car before, I suggest go back and watch it. It's a good video, but I will give a quick rundown of what it is. We swapped in a K24 A2 from a TSX. I think it was a 2004 TSX. And then we did a few supporting mods to go with it. RBC Intake Manifold, Acura RDX Injectors. It has a Typhoon intake, a PLM RSX Tri-Y header. Before, it had a 2 1/4 inch sort of straight through exhaust. It was really loud, but we believe it restricted power a bit up top. So hopefully this new Q300 will actually free up a bit more horsepower as is. We're gonna find out if that's the case, then swap in the cams. So yeah, we're gonna see if this new exhaust has freed up any horsepower. Either way, once we've done that, then we'll start swapping in the cams and see how much power the cams make. So let's get started. Okay, so now that the car is up in the air, I'll just quickly go through and show you the exhaust system. So same header as before, it's the PLM Tri-Y, but now we've switched it out to, as I said, the Invidia Q300. This one was the RSX one, and we did have to modify it slightly to fit the EP3. Modified slightly here, and also back here, just to make it fit, so that it wouldn't hit or anything. But yeah, so basically, Invidia Q300, we did modify this section here is 3 inch, and then it goes to the standard 2 3/4 inch for the rest of the exhaust. So that's it for the exhaust from underneath, and I guess we'll bring the car down, strap it down to the dyno, and see if it makes any difference power-wise with this new exhaust. Okay, so car's all strapped down, ready to go. I don't think I mentioned it, but this car is running on Kpro V4. So it's up to temp, loaded up the map, got data logging up so I can keep an eye on things, and I'm gonna do the first, well, I'll probably do like 2 or 3 pulls just to make sure it's consistent and see how much it makes. Okay, so we did our baseline pulls with the new exhaust, and it made a little bit more power up top, which is what we were hoping for. So before we were at 213, if I remember correctly, and now we're at 218 horse, and we're at 169 torque, and we're at 171. So if I bring up the old graphs, So here's the old graphs, and you can see for some reason we lost a little bit of mid-range power. Not sure what that is. Might be able to just fine-tune that with some VTC. But we've ended up picking up a bunch of power up top, which is what we were hoping for. So yeah, basically 5 peak from just changing the exhaust, and it actually started making a difference as soon as VTEC engaged. It was just slightly different, and it just kept on gaining more and more as the RPMs increased. So there we go. We have a new baseline with the new exhaust system, and now we'll start installing the new cams. Hey everyone, so the EP3 is all done, ready to go. We've got the cams installed, and we are ready to start tuning it and see how much they make with the cams. So it's all strapped down, and I'm going to go through and tune the Kpro, and we'll see how much these drag cartel drop-in cams make over top of the stock TSX cams. So let's get started. So while I'm tuning this car, I thought I'd maybe show you another little tip or trick with Kpro. And because you can do this on the street, but because I have a load control dyno, what I can do is set my load dyno to a specific RPM. So in this case, I've set the dyno at 2500 RPM, and what I've done is I've gone into a view called fuel adjustment, and you set it all up in settings. I do plan on showing you how to do this in the future, but I'll just give you a little quick intro to it for now. And basically what you do is you set it up so that there's targets, lambda targets, so that different air fuel ratios for different loads, and with this view you can use it to see how far off you are from these targets. So what I've done is already I've done a sample at 2500 RPM, and it showed where I'm off, and most of it's within 1 or 2%, and then this column here at 2500 is about 10% off, so I have to make an adjustment there. I'm going to go through and show you now. I'm going to set the dyno at 3000 RPM and show you as I go up in load how far off it is, and then I'll adjust it in the tune, upload that, and we'll see how it fixes it. So I have the dyno, probably can't see it from here, but I have the dyno set at 3000 RPM. So I'm in 4th gear, and you'll see the dyno holds it at 3000 RPM. 3000 RPM, and I'll just hold it at specific load points, and it'll start filling it in. And I can go all the way to full throttle, which is here, full throttle, and it's a little too rich. You can see the difference between that and that. It's a little too rich. So what you see there is the difference, and now I can go in and make the adjustments in the map and start blending everything, because exactly you do need a bit of blending. But yeah, that's kind of how I go about setting up the fuel map. So hopefully that helps, and I'm going to continue tuning, and we'll show you the results at the end. Okay, so the tune's all said and done.
But what I get asked for a lot is what the VTC cam tables look like. So I thought I'd share with you first what these ones look like, and then I'll show you the results. But basically, I did all the ignition tuning, I did all the fuel tuning, and then once I got that pretty stable, then I worked on the VTC maps to try to get them to the point where they make the most power, and then I fine-tuned the fuel and ignition from there. So if you see, this is the non-Vtec map, and in cruise it's very low, but then in full throttle it's 25. You'll see that it starts increasing at 4,000, and then at 45 it's even more. And why this is because I've set VTEC at 45. So the VTEC map is 40 all the way to 6,000 RPM, and then at redline it's at 30, and I've blended it or tapered it from the 40 to 30. So to make the VTEC transition smoother, I bump it up a little bit right before VTEC so that the cam is already adjusting by the time it hits VTEC, and that usually smooths out the transition between non-VTEC and VTEC. So hopefully that helps. I know a lot of guys asked about VTC cam tables. They're very hard to street tune, so it's better left to dyno tuning, but either way, this gives you an idea of what they would look like and maybe a good starting point. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Okay, so all said and done with this K24 A2 TSX swap with Drag Cartel drop-in cams. So final numbers: 239.6 and 186.5. So basically 240 horse and 186 torque. Things we did for this: when we installed the Drag Cartel cams, we did install a RBC 50-degree VTC wheel, so we could utilize a bit more VTC. And we did actually go up to 40 degrees, and that made about the most power. So there is probably a little bit more power to be found. I'll show you the graph. Okay, so here's the graph. 239 horse and 185, 186, depending, 186 torque. So peak torque was right at 55, and peak horse was at about 74. We've only, because this engine still has the original TSX balance shaft and the TSX oil pump, we're not revving it that high, and so we're only revving it to about 76 total. I do think if we were to swap in the Type S oil pump and delete the balance shaft assembly and all that, we would free up probably at least 5 to 10 more horsepower, maybe more, and allow us to rev it a little bit higher safely, as opposed probably up to 8,000 RPM. So one other limiting factor is we do have a small Typhoon, K&N Typhoon intake, and we might actually upgrade that to a 3-inch in a little bit, and maybe do a little bit more testing and see if that frees up a bit more peak power. But for now, these seem like very good results for this Mustang dyno. Basically 240 horse and 186 foot-pounds of torque is pretty good. Let me bring up the original numbers. So here's the comparison of the stock TSX cams versus the Drag Cartel drop-in cams. So peak horse before was 218, and now we're at 239, but it's basically made 10 to 20 horsepower everywhere. And the same with torque. Peak torque before 171, now we're at 185, 186. So huge gains from these cams. These cams are great. We didn't have to do any valve train. We were able to just drop the cams in. We added the 50-degree VTC wheel and picked up basically 20 horsepower everywhere. And with a better intake and the Type S pump, I think we could easily be at 250 with this K24. So one thing I did promise was to show a bit of the VTC tuning. So let me see if I can show you that. Okay, so what I wanted to show was the difference between the VTC. So the first the first pull to in VTEC was a standard, just 25 degrees VTC all the way through. And you can see the big difference is when VTEC engaged. Where I found most of the power was adding VTC angle in VTEC. So this line here, 25 degrees VTC. This line here, 40 degrees tapering to 30 degrees VTC. As I went up in VTC, it made more and more power. And then by the time I got to 40, it made the most. Anyways, it's really hard to show, but I hope that helps a little bit with the VTC. The difference is basically like the 25 degrees versus the 40 to 30 degrees. I did go through, there's tons of pulls on here that I did just measuring the results from each angle, and what I ended up finding the best was non-VTEC was 25 degrees, VTEC engagement 40 degrees till about 6,000, and then after 6,000 I ended up tapering it to 30. So anyways, that's it for today. Hopefully we'll get this car back at some point with either a turbo or even a few more mods. So, but yeah, anyways, I hope you liked the video, and like always, if you do, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.